If you're not sure who we are, putting it on, we are HEED, known as the Home Education Enrichment Day. We've been 20 years ministering to high school and middle school, and now elementary school homeschoolers. So we have a program that is here at this church, and we're so blessed to be here. I'm going to just take a couple minutes, run through some housekeeping stuff for our families that are here, and then we're going to introduce our speaker and dive right in, and I'm on the edge of my seat. Usually when we're having a conference, it's parenting or homeschool, and this is I know nothing about, so it's really exciting to learn alongside everyone else. All my students that are here, be sure you check in with Miss Fawny because there's extra credit and stuff, so we thank you. Even if we did bribe you, we thank you that you're here in the spirit of extra credit. So thanks for doing that. How many college kids do I have here? Professor Jomini, who is our econ teacher and Ironman triathlon, I don't know if you know that he's a triathlete, had a bicycle crash, pretty serious yesterday. So if you guys would pray for him, surgery tomorrow morning I think they have to give him an entire new hip. So no class tomorrow night, and from then on we may be Zooming for a couple weeks and then he'll be back, okay? Please pray for him. That surgery is tomorrow morning. We have a resource table out in the lobby, and there's a few flyers that I wanted to let you know about. Number one is the South Florida Expo in Deerfield Beach. That is coming up February 24th. It's a Saturday. It's not like the Orlando FPEA, which is huge and amazing and terrific. It's a little bit cozier. They'll probably have about 30, 40 vendors, speakers. It's a neat place to go and get your questions answered for homeschooling. And if you're interested in the legislation that's gone on right now, we're actually in the middle of it, arguing House Bill 1043. I'm going to give the update on all the Tallahassee up to date of that day. It will be updated on where we are in the new legislation, some of it concerning our scholarships and other interesting, actually, legislation coming through this year. So I'll be speaking at that about homeschooling, about high school, and about the lobbying work. And if you're familiar with hearing me talk, you hear me every time I talk, I always mention the Home Education Foundation, which is our lobbyist, our voice in Tallahassee. It is crucial that we keep supporting the work. We just hired a new lobbyist. He and his wife and 4 children have, by faith, moved to Tallahassee, by my faith, because we are raising the funds to support them. Right now, we have it really covered through April. So we need to step up our support. But these guys are on the front line, and they are necessary. That's why Florida has the greatest homeschool law in the country. It's because we have somebody there guarding it, protecting it, and working for us. So consider supporting that work. They do like a $10 a month for families, which is really neat. February 26th is our open house for next year. 6 o'clock is elementary, 7:15 is high school. Come if you want to learn anything about homeschooling and about our program. That's the night to come. Registration will open right after that. We expect to be very full very quickly this year. So if it's something you're interested in. The next one after open house, I'm going as fast as I can. HEED advising. If you are entering high school and you don't know what you're doing and you don't have a plan, by not knowing what you're doing, meaning knowing the courses you're going to pick and the classes you're going to pick, there is an advising flyer out there, and you can get an appointment to sit down and really come up with a scope and sequence personalized for your student. It's imperative. It will save you gray hair, anxiety, and all of that if you know what you're doing before you start rather than sometime in the middle. And if you are a homeschooler that says, I just want somebody to tell me how to do this and hold my hand, Giovanna Cavaretta, who is in the lobby, is a homeschool coach, and she is incredible at doing that. So we have tried to come alongside families for years to help you do what we feel like, if God's called you to do this, we want to support that in you. Last but not least, there is a leadership conference that is going on, and Andrea Hassim is here. And let me tell you a little bit about it, because the exciting part about this is she has free tickets for any students that want to come. As homeschoolers, we appreciate resources that are going to grow and mature our young children. This special gift tonight for homeschoolers is from the founder of Elevate Life Educational Foundation. They've been working for about 10 years doing leadership conferences for students. Her passion for training and mentoring young people has grown into this TLT movement. She's here tonight to bless families with complimentary tickets to a unique opportunity called the Explicit Event. This talk show type event is intended to present fresh perspectives from faith-filled role models who raise the bar and challenge young people to live with values. It's Saturday, February 10th, 1 to 6 in the ballroom of the Hilton in Pompano Beach. There is a QR code, there's tickets out there, so if it's something you're interested in, stop by the resource table. She can answer all your questions and get you ready for that. Last but not least, we love this church. We love Pastor Austin, and he opens this church to our families, to any event that we want to do. This is not even a question. It's check the calendar, you're in, and we want to appreciate them. We've worked with a lot of churches, and I've never seen this kind of hospitality and this kind of openness with their building. The more nights it's filled, the happier they are, and we have probably about 250 not little people, but from the little people to our teenagers here all week long, and it's just been amazing, and we so appreciate them. Tonight, if you would like to give, our speaker is not, I don't know if I should say not accepting, but he wants to do this without any kind of compensation, and we appreciate that. So if you would like to give, it would bless us if you would consider donating an offering to the church. We are in need of a roof, and I understand we're getting really close. So if everyone did a little bit, I think we have a QR code for that, Allie. Consider that. I'll put it up again at the end to help us help them. So from the Heed family and the community to bless them, the ministries that are operating in and out of here all week long, that they just open their doors to in the community, it's incredible. So we want to come alongside and support them, but we want to thank you too and honor you so much. Anything I missed from, let me introduce Jean Campbell is one of the directors. Liz Barber is one of the directors. Put your hand up, guys. Don't be shy. It's been 20 years. I always have to do it up here. And Giovanna Cavaretta, I think she's at the resource table, is our newest director, and we sure needed some help, so we're really blessed to have her. Is there any more housekeeping? Silence your phones. I want to introduce Jean and I and Liz have been doing this for 21 years. We thought we were going to do it for 6. So we're still here, and now we have grandchildren, so we're kind of committed for the next decade or so. But Jean is going to introduce our speaker, and thank you for coming. Oh, our program, we just found out in the last hour this was not a trick, but we are live streaming. So we're glad you're here, but if you know somebody who's not and you want to send them the link, that's the link. You can invite them to join in on the live stream.
Thank you. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for coming. We're excited about tonight's speaker. My name is Jean Campbell. I am typically not the director you see behind the microphone. I usually leave that to Sue, but I wanted to be the one to make the introduction tonight because we have a really special speaker here, Dr. Tom Bradish. He is an accomplished high-tech industry executive with past roles as VP, GM, CTO, distinguished engineer, and a 3-time fellow at IBM, National Instruments, and Hewlett-Packard. He was inducted into the NC State University Alumni Hall of Fame, named CRN's Top 100 Executives and Top 25 Disruptors, Top Influencer of Onalytica, received the IBM Chairman's Award, elected to the IBM Academy of Technology, and honored as a life member of the IEEE. He holds several U.S. patents, founded the charity SOCRelief.com, look that one up. Currently, he serves as a CTO and Chief Product Officer of an internet breach advisory and restoration company. Tom is a Christian, husband, father, grandfather, with a passion to equip the next generation to have dominion over the technology that lies ahead. Tom also does a killer Elvis Presley impersonation. And I have known him for 60 years. It is my honor to introduce you to my brother, Dr. Thomas Bradish. You're welcome, and we are especially blessed because our mom and dad are on the front row here. What a gift. Thank you.
Mom wrote a great intro, didn't she? Well, what a pleasure it is to be here. I want to thank Pastor Austin as well and Sahila for allowing us to use this great venue. Allie here is my colleague helping with the IT and the AV, and we're hoping to, I have to type in a password. You're not a threat actor, are you? Okay. Nope. We're going to go over that later and see what, pardon me, what I meant by that as well. And we might have an automated clicker so I can walk around, as well. We'll see how that works. I would like to say that this presentation could have been called an ethical perspective of AI. And I have spoken on that during keynotes at large corporations, small groups, but since my ethics are informed by the Bible, it's easy for me to go to the root and talk more about how I believe the Bible can inform us on this particular topic, like everything else in life. And so because I was asked to address many, I think, in the room that would have a biblical worldview, hopefully this will resonate with you. So what does the Bible have to say about AI? Does anyone know? Can you quote any verses or, on that? Okay. I would like to also say that I'm happy to do this. One of my passions, as Jean said, is to allow others to be exposed to this, particularly parents and students. And also, this is the first time we're doing it from a biblical perspective, so I welcome your criticism as well. And if you have any, please put it in triplicate and mail it to. I'm happy to refine this, and I'm going to do it countrywide, maybe even globally as well, because I want to inform people on what is happening with AI and how the nefarious threat actors, are using it. What is a threat actor? That's the villain or the bad person who is nefariously trying to attack us with identity fraud, and usually it's through an IT system, like the device in your hand that you will use when I get boring, like your laptop, like your desktop, etc. And so that's a term, if you haven't heard, it's called the threat actor, and we'll be talking about that. AI, what does that stand for? You're right, this is the gifted group, yeah. That's it. Please talk to them. You'll love them, they're gifted, they're very smart. AI, artificial intelligence, is the third fication. What are the previous two fications? Anyone know? Well, electrification and datafication. Those things swept our country and the world when each one of them were born. When electricity was born, we had a notion of let's electrify and bring electricity to underserved populations and everywhere. And then the internet happened and computing happened, and the idea was, hey, let's do datafication and get the internet, out to underserved populations. They could be, of course, urban, inner city, or rural, as well. Well, AI is happening, and the interesting thing about that is it is happening to us. There's not a lot of impetus for you to do anything because it is everywhere. It is absolutely everywhere. And I'll hopefully expose you to some places where it is that you didn't know. But I also want you to know that doesn't mean it's always nefarious. Okay, AI metaphorically could be like cuisine or food. You say, well, I'm afraid of AI, I don't like AI. You wouldn't say that about food, would you? And I'm looking across the audience. I don't think anybody would. But the idea. By the way, this church has a gym, and it's free to use. I just want to point that out. Yeah, anytime. Yeah. You might say, though, I want to stay away from sugar. I want to stay away from high cholesterol foods, but not all food, because what about healthy foods, etc. Same with AI. We need to have that particular balance. Everything has that. When television arrived, do you remember those days? That was potentially nefarious. When rock and roll happened, when the internet happened, and they are used for bad, I think so, but they're also used, of course, for good. So we're going to go through a balance here, and I'll give you a perspective on there. You may choose to never use AI, but you cannot choose to not have AI used on you. And it's happening every time you use your cell phone and every time you get on a social media connection as well. And again, I'm not saying it's all bad, but I just want you to see what is happening with it, because we have things in life that are definitely bad, and then we have things that are definitely good, and then in between is what? A whole world of gray area that if we look to the Bible, even St. Paul, who wrote most or a lot of the New Testament, would say, not everything is necessarily evil or unwise, but not everything is wise. And that's the gray area in life. I don't think the Bible explicitly told you to come here tonight. However, you inferred it. So that gray area, hopefully it was the Holy Spirit that allowed you to make that correct decision, and you made a right decision. What I like about Christian groups or the Christian church is that it's very inclusive, and if you can reach one person, just one, all the effort, is worth it. And that's about my average, by the way. Reaching one, and that's why I like speaking to Christian groups, because it is valued. So where is AI used? Let's do a little history first. In 1947, remember that year? Alan Turing, brilliant guy, possibly the first lecture publicly about machine intelligence. He didn't necessarily coin the term AI, but that a machine, meaning a computer, could be intelligent, and that the introduction of intelligent machinery was really the foundation for AI. And then in 1956, a very famous year for a couple of reasons, a conference at Dartmouth College, which is in the US in the north, the term artificial intelligence was coined and it was born. What else happened? In 1956, that changed the course of history. Anyone know? What? No, but thank you for the compliment. No, Elvis Presley released his hit, Hound Dog. So two major things happened, right, as well. And wouldn't it be cool? Anyone know what that is? It's a 45 record. 45 stands for what? Revolutions per minute, and that's how fast it turned, right, as well. And wouldn't it be cool if you had that? And by the way, I do. I have a copy. It is in my car, and I had planned to display it as a prop. And then I realized I forgot it's in my car, and I was too lazy to go out and get it. So that's the story. Okay, 1956, you will remember this. Now, the earliest applications of AI back then when it was being born were chess, checkers, robots, autonomous vehicles. Does that sound familiar? Well, that's application, today as well. It's kind of cool. And cyber physical systems. That might be a robot because it has a cyber dimension of computing controlling it, and it's a physical thing, right? Cyber physical. And then there was an AI arms race where countries are saying, well, we got to invest. We got to invest because AI is so powerful. And then there became an AI winter, was a subtle and then a rigorous cessation of AI. And that's why we didn't hear about it until what? What happened? Maybe, decades later. Okay, let's do the theme song. Ready? Somebody's doing it, yeah. I wasn't serious, but thank you. AI in 2001, which came out in what year? 1968. This is all on the test. So 1968, this comes out, and there was a computer, an AI computer named HAL. Why was it called HAL? Anyone know? Because HAL, those letters are one letter in the alphabet ahead of. You said it, sir, and you said it, sir. There are no prizes, but thank you. That's why, right? It was supposed to be a generation ahead. But then in 97, then the chess champion of the world is beat by artificial intelligence, and that was a very famous time. And so we see these spurts of it coming up. But why has it achieved celebrity status today, AI? Why do you think? We'll look into that as well. So AI today offers great promise and business potential, and also societal potential. I'm going to show you a couple of things in that area, but it's coupled with a mix of three things. And I want to know who knows what I'm talking about when I say Y2K-like fear. Anyone? Sir, what do you think? What does that mean? What does it mean?
That meant that the computers could only handle 2 digits, so when the year turned from 1999 all chaos.
That was a scary time. I was hiding in a closet. at the time. Actually, I was in the computer business and knew that was ridiculous. Therefore, I was one that, but only because of my knowledge, not because of my IQ, because of my knowledge. So yeah, that was a fearful time where rockets, missile rockets would be launched, you know, and no one could do anything about it. Back then, you could pull plugs, you know. It was possible to unplug things. And I'm going to contrast this to AI, though. Okay, what is Orwellian-like suspicion? Named after who? All right. By the way, look at Y2K. That was on the news of a very prestigious, like this atom bomb is going to go off, and no one can stop it. Okay, Orwellian-like suspicion. 1984 is a book written by who? And what did he say? Everything's being watched, and that's a good suspicion today, because your phone is recording everything you say, whether it's on or off, or at least it has the potential, you know, to do that. Whether it's used for good or bad, that is debatable, but it is a fact that 1984 has moved from the fiction section in the bookstore to the nonfiction, you know, section in many ways, right? And then Oppenheimer-like regret. Who is this guy? Robert Oppenheimer. What did he do? He ran what's called the Manhattan Project, the father of the A-bomb, or the, you know, the explosion. And he later said he has blood on his hands. He regretted this. Very understandable, right? A human being with feelings who created the most destructive weapon in the world, and it was used how many times? Twice, and I understand it was threatened to use 3 times, but we didn't have a third one, and I say we, the United States, as a United States citizen. So that was the bluff, but the surrender took place, and he spent a lot of his life, as did his son, trying to control and put in policy and ethical and laws that would prevent it from happening again. Has he been successful? Or that a notion? Well, yeah, so this is like hope, too. This is scary, but it's also some hope, you know, as well. Ironically, we have AI today, and a lot of people contributed to AI, but there is a gentleman who is called the godfather of AI, and what do you think he's doing right now? Just guess. He's followed the Oppenheimer-like regret. He's quit his job, and there he is on here, the Nobel Prize winner, Dr. Hinton, and he's regretting. Look at that face, right? I mean, about what he did to promote this thing called AI and the nefarious use. You know, that could happen. It doesn't mean it will, but it could be. It definitely could be. So let's keep going on. That's some history. So like anything in life, or many things, maybe not everything, it's a balance, right? There's good and evil. I'm going to go over some good, and then I'm going to go over some of the nefarious stuff, because that's more interesting and also more scary, you know, as well. And then we're going to wrap up by understanding why, if you are God's people, you can have hope and you don't need to fear. If you're not, then a lot of what I'm saying is not applicable. If you're you know, rejecting the sovereignty of God and his scriptures, then a lot of what I'm saying is not going to be applicable. But hopefully it will at least get to your heart, because it is biblical truth. You'll see. Let's go. A biblical perspective. The first verse in the Bible on AI is in the book of Joshua in the Bible. Why are you laughing? It's very negative on AI. Have you noticed? Did you read that? It's very negative. Joshua arose and all the people of war, and they went up against AI. Don't you feel like you want to do it? So this is kind of amazing. And then they formed an army. Can anybody correct my misinterpretation of this verse? Maybe we should call on our pastor here. Oh, he thinks it is AI, artificial intelligence.
You can't get there from here in Hebrew.
Yes, okay. All right, real quickly, this is a city in the Promised Land, and if you know the story of Joshua leading, taking the Promised Land that God provided for his chosen people, that's where this comes from. But it sure gets a good laugh, doesn't it? And we didn't even need the laugh track that I wanted here tonight, but they didn't have it. Okay, the Bible obviously doesn't address AI directly. Therefore, a biblical perspective is going to be how, like a lot of things, right? I think you'd agree with me. It's making a modern application, well, AI is fairly modern, to timeless biblical principles. We're going to go over a few of them. And here's one of them that we can apply. This is Jesus speaking. I am sending you out like sheep among wolves. And I'm going to talk about sheep metaphorically being the extorted, the ones where AI is hurting people. Very much elderly and very much young people, but everybody is a sheep in that sense. Who are the wolves? They're the nefarious, people that are seeking to extort and to take advantage of, to steal identity, to steal information, as well. Therefore, you must be shrewd as snakes. You being here tonight will contribute to your shrewdness. Hopefully not your snakiness, but your shrewdness, right? But yet at the same time, innocent as a dove. You see that interesting parallel. And seminars like this, as well as other things in life, contribute to that. Peter tells us to be sober-minded. Who's Peter? Here I am asking that. By the way, if you ever feel bad about your job and that you failed, think of Peter, who failed, and it was memorialized in the most famous book in history, right? How he feels about that. So be watchful, he says. Peter, of course, one of the apostles of the Lord, and be sober-minded. This is part of that, as well. Okay, let's look at the benefits. See the title? It's benefiting and protecting. So there's the good and the evil balance here. So let's talk about the good part. It is said that a picture is worth 1,000 words, but a picture with AI is worth 1 billion words. And this is true. Video analytics reduces theft in retail stores. You think that's a good thing? At first I didn't when they would stop me, but now I agree it's a really good thing. I'm going to show you how the thievery takes place and how AI can help us discover how to stop this, okay? So video analytics would be a subset of the way we could use AI, and we can use AI in many ways. Like ChatGPT is an artificial intelligence technology that has achieved celebrity status today because, why? Most consumers think that that's AI. But again, that would be like having soup for one meal and therefore thinking that's all food is, is soup. So we're going to talk about non-generative AI. That's the definition of what ChatGPT can do for you. And we're going to talk about some what I might call analytical AI, as well. Let's look at this. So that's a that's a store that's portioned into 3 categories where theft takes place. One is in the aisles, right? And I'm sure you've done that, right? You put stuff in your coat and in your purse. And then in the back end, where the delivery comes in and they're unloading all the cases of beer except for one that gets stuck in the truck, and what does the guy do, with it? So that's one. And then up front, especially in self-checkout. And we're going to look at that. That's kind of cool. Self-checkout dimension as well. So here we are. Somebody is sticking, as you can see in that photo, in their coat. You say, well, if you had a camera on that, why do you need AI if somebody's watching? Well, one study showed the number of minutes in an hour that somebody watches a security camera is how much, do you think? Just guess. 1. It's 14, yeah. So if I subtract 14 from 60, what will I get? 46 minutes of nobody watching. However, if a computer can watch, it may be fooled because humans are pretty smart on the way, but it can learn. That's a big dimension of AI is learning, machine learning. It can learn that putting any object this way could be, not always, but could be, a theft activity, as well. So that's why that's extremely powerful. And doing image recognition and being able to find presence detection, as well. Do you want a nefarious a student who is expelled to come on campus? Do you want to know when the president of your company or the CEO has entered your building? Things like that with facial recognition, which is very popular. But this is the one that is really cool, and I've done it a lot. I would take a very expensive alcohol bottle, and I would scan it. But what I do instead is I would take a pack of gum that's only $1.79, and I would put that barcode right under here, like she's doing. See the double hand there? You don't need 2 hands for that small bottle. And then when you scan the bottle, what happens? The $1.79 pack of gum is rung up, right? It's a very popular one. Now, what AI can do is, if there's cameras, which is one video input, but it can also see a size of something and try to learn that, in fact, if she turned around and said, hey, this wine was only $1.79, what would you say? Based on your intelligence is, that's either an amazing sale, even if it's cheap wine, but, right? So my friends at Everseen, they're a partner of mine. In the past, we've worked together on promoting this technology to reduce theft. Would you say that's a good use of AI? I think so, right? Unless you're a thief, right? You know, as well. Okay, let's look at another one. Federated learning, or sometimes called swarm learning, where we can go out and learn things and come back. A hub and a spoke model, you know, as well. Now, you got to follow this closely. It is information, it's data, but there are 3 hospitals, Chicago, London, and Bengaluru. Where's that? Right, Bangalore, India. Right, 3 hospitals. The pneumothorax, there's very limited images and therefore history and recognition of a pneumothorax. What's that? It's a lung collapse, right, due to escape of air. But if they go to the mass or the atelectasis, they would say, I have a lot of history. I can recognize that when a patient comes in. Now, contrary-wise, in London, they got a lot of pneumothorax, not a lot of mass, tumor. And then the Bengaluru hospital you can see up there. So when you have the orange, that's where they're weak. How can we use AI to strengthen that, do a correct diagnosis, and save lives? Would you say that's good? You know, as well. So yeah, definitely indeed. And this is a real world, by the way. This is what we did in a real world application. So we take patients, we take their pictures, those are lung x-rays, and that's the data we feed into the machine for machine learning, ML, machine learning in the AI, and we do all this and then we pop out insights. Now what's interesting about this is not only can we help the diagnosis, because a misdiagnosis, you know, can be pretty bad, right? A type 1 error or a type 2 error. You know, as well. But what's cool is we don't have to send the data because there's a lot of privacy in the United States of sending, you know, x-rays of people, but we can just send the insights. So there's data you acquire. Think of the 3 A's. You acquire the data, then you analyze the data and create insights, and then you take action on the data, 3 A's. Acquire, analyze, and act. And that happens when you go to a physician. Data is acquired, right? Your temperature, blood, bodily fluids, listening, looking, and then it's analyzed and you get a nice report with bar charts and pie charts and a whole bunch of terms you never heard of, right? And then if your physician said, see you next year, you'd feel cheated, you want action. Like in my case, Dr. Tom, you're too fat. You have to lose weight. You have to change your diet. You have to exercise. So I'm there for the action. I'm not there for the acquisition or the analysis. I'm there for the action. And the action here is to share an insight so that patients can be diagnosed. So here's what happened. This is real. Remember the weakness. Chicago had a weakness in pneumothorax, right? London had a weakness in mass. But when we did that, the blue shows the level of accuracy of the diagnosis going up. It used to be red with no AI learning, and it turned into blue, especially pneumothorax in hospitals. It went from about a 10% accuracy of diagnosis that the AI was able to train the clinicians to get up to close to 70. I think that's pretty significant, right? And this is only trials going on. So, okay, that's the good part. I'll tell you what you came to hear. There are many types, and a little more tutorial. You're going to learn a lot about this this tonight. And I spent, you know, like how many months did I have to prepare this? Do you remember when we met? Well, I woke up yesterday and I said, oh no, it's tomorrow. And I did nothing, you know, all that time. So I put a lot of time into this to get it to a point where I'm sure you'll understand. Don't be too concerned about it being too technical. Watch this. Today there are many types and functions of applications of AI, just like food and cuisine. You can't say it's all good, you can't say it's all bad, right? They're used to predict outcomes, they're used to control things, produce outcomes, etc. One of the most popular is called generative AI. I want you to remember that. And that's what you think all AI is usually, right? Because that's what the consumer hears. Now, generative AI there's many of them, and ChatGPT, the most famous, I would say today, is this. You can you can generate text like cheating on homework. Is anyone familiar with that? As well, that's one application of this generative AI. You know, research papers, you can poems, songs, you know, marketing slogans, email insight. That's the text part that does a pretty interesting job, and I'm going to show you how it works too. You know, how does it do that? You ever asked that question? No one has. Okay. But you're gonna learn how anyway. All right, audio. You can produce voice, songs, music, and art, software, images as well. So people have used AI to generate art and put it in art competitions and win. Isn't that interesting? And then they have become a prompt artist, and I'll tell you why it's called that, shortly. So today, generative AI harbors several risks. One is errors masquerading as fact. Two is bias. There's political bias, as well as even racial, gender bias, etc. Copyright infringement, of course, plagiarism, that's a big one that comes up all the time. That's just only one risk. Embedded malware, especially if you're using it to generate code or other things that come up on your computer screen and you click on a link that was produced. Another one is the suppression of critical thinking. And when you're in an education environment, you want to generate thinking on your own and creativity. You could counter that argument by saying, well, it takes a lot of critical thinking to do what's called the prompting to use the tool. So that's a fair statement. However, it's a different type. Vulnerability to user data. Okay, you got all these startups, and you're downloading all these apps with AI on your phone. And you don't know when you give your data away by even saying, write a poem for my beautiful wife, Sally. Now it knows you're married to someone named Sally. Just one little piece of information to build an entire portfolio on who you are so you can be exploited, right, in the machine. And so you don't know these startups, is all this data in somebody's garage, right? Or is it really protected? Well, and if it is a breach, it can get your information because you're happily using it, right, with, as well. So therefore, if you read the bottom, hence the banning of generative AI in education, government, and business is common. You know a company that has just banned that use of generative AI at this time. So it's well-founded. And Sue, what is the policy for HEED?
Generative AI is banned.
You did ban it, okay.
We did ban it, and we spent $3,000 to buy a program, which has proved to be pretty impressive. And the reason we did it is because we're concerned about critical thinking, creativity, analysis, learning to write well, analyzing whether it's literature. So I think in the future it's going to be changing, but for right now, there's no place it undermines what we're trying to do to give these kids a foundation in education.
Very good. Do you allow your guest speakers to use it?
We do now.
I'm just kidding. That's how this whole thing got created. All right, so you heard it from the chief director of the organization. So students, just don't use it, just do it, as well. And then later on in life, you can move on to it. How does it work? Have you ever asked that? Thought about that? Well, there's prompting or prompt engineering. It's the process of creating an input. Usually it's text, but you can also input, videos and pictures, and ask it to generate a desired response, right? So there are types of prompt instructions, questions, dates that you put in verbally or typed in, or a file, like I said, that could be a photo as well. And commonly it makes use of something called a large language model. What's a large language model? If you were to pick up every dictionary and encyclopedia you have and you were to consume it and read it, you would have a large language model effectively in your brain of the English language if it was in English. Now imagine, you got to stay with me and learn how this works. Imagine if you knew every word and everything that would follow a word in the entire history of English language. Works of Shakespeare, everything, right? Because you can finish my sentences based on the knowledge of something, what would follow a word, but it's only limited to your experience. And those are geographic, their age, their cultural, et cetera. For example, for lunch today, I had peanut butter and, what did you say? Okay, most of you said jelly. Now, that would not have come across in France, by the way. I introduced one of my employees, an executive in France, to peanut butter and jelly. So notice it's geographic. In America, most of us have had that, as well. I had peanut butter and jelly and a side of I'm just saying, now you notice the jelly came out really strong. That's because it was biased or weighted. This is important in the model. And the model's in your brain. It's weighted very hard because peanut butter and jelly, right, as an American, growing up as well. So if you look at that graph up there, every word is attached to another word. Because I could have said peanut butter and what? Bananas, right? Bacon. Those would be weighted less, although they're still true, as well. And the more I train my brain to know what to say, growing up in America and only seeing peanut butter and bananas if I knew Elvis, hardly ever anything else, right? You're training your brain. But then you discover it. Oh, there's a peanut butter and banana. There's a peanut butter and roast beef, which is one of my and my daughter's favorite sandwiches. There's peanut butter and bacon. The list goes on. But notice the weighting here. And that's what happens here. But think about these connections. There are billions and billions and billions of them, right? It's just amazing. I saw an automobile run a, finish it. I saw an automobile run a red light, right? And finish it. So you see how you've connected all that? That's how this thing works. It's really rather amazing. But notice you have to train it and teach it. And there's two gross dimensions in AI. It's called training. And once you train it all, like you have all your life, no matter what age you are, you've been trained. And then there's inferencing, which I'm doing with you now. I'm inferencing with you by saying peanut butter and, right? And that's my prompt, to you. So that's how it works. So there are billions and billions of these as well. Now, here's something interesting. If you prompt AI to create a photograph, you're no longer a photographer, you're called a promptographer. And there was someone who wanted to get a copyright on the artwork or the photo, and that person argued, well, I should get a copyright because I took 100 hours of prompting, because it's not usually one thing. Because if I said peanut butter and you said jelly, but I didn't want jelly, I'd have to do what? I'd have to re-prompt you, to get it. So this person's claiming that there was a lawsuit because the copyright was not granted on this, and as it says here, the U.S. Copyright Office position is AI-generated artwork is not eligible for copyright protection under the current U.S. laws. Human authorship is required, as well. So you could have just snapped a picture or 100 hours. No, but this prompting is a little more than I'm sarcastically making fun of here, because you have to refine it, and you can get exactly what you want, right? Whereas indeed, if you are a photographer or an artist, sometimes it's painstaking to achieve the outcome as well. Let's keep moving on. Why has AI achieved celebrity status today? Why? Why? Well, there's a dramatic drop in computing cost. In your hand, you hold a computer that is more powerful than what? What? Yeah, I just prompted you, and your machine said NASA, because that is true, and that's a popular metaphor, right? Where is what I have here is more powerful than the computers back in the 1960s in your hand as well. AI is very compute intensive, right? So when your spouse asks you to do something, you can say, oh, that's really compute intensive. I'm not sure I have the time to think about that. Dramatic cost drop in data storage. It's very data intensive. Remember, to get a large language model, that's really good. You need every word, not only every word in the English language, but every connection that word would ever have before it and after it. Amazing data sizes and voluminousness of the data, right? Do you know anybody who's data intensive? All right, also access anytime, anywhere. Networking is ubiquitous, pretty much in this country, right? So these things have been driven to say, hey, let's, let's do AI again. All right, let's look at the protecting part, the bad part. How do we protect ourselves? Again, it's a trade-off. We're going to talk about the evil dimension of artificial intelligence. I'm going to tie it to the cybercrime world a lot, because that's a key use of it as well. Somehow, with telecommunications technology and computer technology, this nefarious AI is being manifested to exploit people. Let's look at that. I told you about the term of threat actors. I'm going to talk about a couple of threat actors. One type of threat actor is a hacker, usually nefarious. It is a script kiddie. Script kiddie is a young person or a person young in the experience of hacking. Are there any here? You're all good at it. You're all experts. Okay. But usually it's a young person, hence the kiddie idea. Now, when they're doing this, I know of a young person who said, I hacked into the computer system of my high school. And I said, what did you do? And he said, I looked at my grades, and I'm thinking, I hope you didn't change them. That's what's on my mind. And then I said, what'd you do next? Well, I got out because I got a little scared, so I just, okay, so that would be a script kiddie, right? Figured out how to hack into a computer system. Didn't necessarily do any damage. Sometimes it's for hobby, but sometimes it's for exploitation, because if that person was able to steal the grades and encrypt them so no one could ever see them, they might have what's called a ransomware activity, meaning I will unencrypt them, I'll unencrypt them if you give me money or you give me something else. So it can migrate into just, for grins, into, fairly organized crime as well. So as much as possible, I want this seminar to get out because many young people are much more technology savvy, and good parenting is obviously a way, not the only way, and also not always the way that works. But that's the goal here. Let's look at number 2. Script kiddies, hacktivists. When you combine 2 words, what's that called? What is it? Oh yeah, but this is a activist and a hacker, but when you combine the 2 words, what is that called? That's a good guess, and correct if it is a noun. It's called a portmanteau, which is a French word for what? A double compartment suitcase. See, now you know. When you come to one of my lectures, you learn things totally unrelated to the subject. So, but I learned that from the Academy Awards. When you get the podium, you can talk about anything you want, unrelated to, to the event. All right, hacktivists are hackers that are activists, and they're usually necessarily not after money, but they want to make a point and a social point, usually. So here is one that is an actual quote from a hacktivist. Who is this hacktivist? All right, the name of that is called Anonymous, and they have the hooded, the mask. And it's come to our attention that the media has minimized the abuses on the homeless and other vulnerable populations. So they're taking a position, a altruistic and many times virtue signaling, right, position to protect a very vulnerable population. And if it's the media who's not doing what they want, then they'll go do what? Start to attack the media. That's the hacktivists. Nation states, these are really serious. Advanced persistent threats, APTs. They are many times nations that are organized to go after another nation. This is a quote from one of them. It says, I have most definitely given portions of my work to people who hate the United States. That's you, right? That's what happens when the FBI subpoenas my Google account and intrudes on my privacy. So you can see this particular nation state threat actor was making progress. The FBI came in and tried to find out about their accounts at Google, but this is an actual quote, from one of them. And here's also an actual hack that has happened. On the screen is, you have been hacked. Every equipment made in Israel is Cyber Avenger legal target. Notice the use of the English language. That gives us a hint, right? Or what you might say the more improper use as well. So analyzing these messages, right, from threat actors is an important part of using AI. Watch, using AI to help stop cybercrime, right? I'm personally involved in that, right now. So you have been hacked. Well, what is this? The nation of Israel, a manufacturer in Israel, made a little computer controller, and it was in all, or in many, maybe not all, the water treatment plants that controlled valves, etc. When you take that down, you can stop the production of water or different chemicals, as well. So, but notice what it is here. It's not extorting for money. It's hating another, another particular country. Is there any country that might hate the United States that comes to mind? So we are indeed vulnerable, right, as is many. Here's one that's organized crime. This is I black out the name of the actual company just to protect them. It is public knowledge, you could find that. But the point is, they say, hey, give me money, or there's always the option I can leak all your data, right? That's blackmail, that's extortion, as well. And so the methods are, denial of service means I make it so you can't use your computer systems because there's about 3 or 4 types of denial of service attacks, that happen, including net bots, you might have heard that term, that just tie up everything. A colleague of mine is the CEO of a network company, and he got denial of service attacked, and a ransom of $4 million was demanded. That was an interesting story because he decided to attack the attacker. I thought that was interesting. It turns out it worked. We'll get into that another time. But encryption, stealing the data, of course, too, and selling it, as well. It's very possible that your ID and password to your email is for sale. And where would it be for sale? It's called the dark web, right? And we're on the clear web, as it would be called, and there's certain layers. When you get to the dark web, it's a rather amazing place where there's a lot of bravado and a lot of bragging about what they have. And they post, brag, I just took down this bank, or I just ransomware this, et cetera. And then the extortion can be in many ways, as we say here. And stealing your identity is a big one. That's a consumer one, so you're probably familiar with that, right? That's one way to extort the data here. You might not be able to read this, but it says your computer files have been encrypted. Your photos, your videos, everything. You have 24 hours to pay me $150. Can you believe the size of that ransom? This is small potatoes, but I'm pointing it out because it has a lot of information in it, right? And every time you wait an hour, we're going to increase the amount. We might even get up to $500. So you see, I'm being sarcastic here, but ransomwares with large organizations are in the tens of millions, the ransoms, tens of millions, as well. So, and then that little mask there is part of what is called scareware. So this is a combination of scareware and ransomware. It's supposed to shock you, when you see that. And I was watching your faces. None of you flinched, so you're going to be great. Okay. Here's another one. You may not be able to read it, but it says, if you are reading this message, it means that your network infrastructure has been compromised. Critical data was leaked. And I put this up here because they give their names. This is called the Dark Angel. It is the threat actor, sometimes called family, sometimes called company, but the threat actor family that's working this way. This is a manufacturer. I know the senior vice president of this manufacturer. He was telling me about it. I blocked out the name. Again, it's public knowledge. Why is it public knowledge? How does it get out into public? You know, Mark. How does it get out in the public? Well, two ways. Number one is if you're a publicly held company, and I've served on the board of directors of publicly held companies, meaning you have stockholders, there is a legal obligation to file what's called the 8K form that discloses what has happened to your company so investors can learn. It's a very good thing. One of the things you must expose is if you've had a material breach of your IT infrastructure, because it can affect your company's performance. In fact, it'll cost this company $27 million. You think the stockholders would like to know that, right? That $27 million is coming out of the bottom line effectively to repair this. So that's how it gets public. Another way it gets public is because since the threat actors are anonymous, what do? They brag about it, right? As well. I actually saw a picture of a billboard in Russia where they were advertising, as well. And this shows the incredible pride and the incredible bravado of these. And does anyone know what Proverbs says about pride, the book of Proverbs? Pride comes before the fall. So they're vulnerable because of just that particular aspect. And I see some colleagues here from the company where I work. We're going to go after and see if we can promote that fall, if you will. And so are many others in the world today. We want to be the sheepdogs to protect the sheep from the wolves, right, as well. Here's another one, Black Matter, right? Your network is encrypted. I'm just reading this quickly. We are not a politically motivated group. In other words, they're not the nation state. We just want money, and that's what it says. We don't want anything but your money, as well. And then it says, here's how you do it. You download this browser to get on the dark web, and you can start talking with me on the dark web, right? And so there's chat going on with these particular threat actors, obviously with the objective of ending this, for the company. Now, a new industry has been born. The threat actors are so successful with their software, they want to share it. It's called malware, right? And they'll share it for free. So you, Pastor Austin, you could be a threat actor by just subscribing to this software, and you could launch it. And if you launched it in your own organization, you'd be an inside, threat. But anyone can do it, is my point. And I'm not going to encourage you to do that, but the elders, would discourage that. But my point is, anyone can do it, right? A new ransomware is a service. You can actually do, and they have rules. And they said, you can give me a cut of your ransom. Let's say, if you make $1 million, you give me 20%. Or you can give me a monthly subscription fee. It's an actual disciplined industry. that's happening. And here's a website. You can go and notice the cart. You can shop for the ransomware, and it's on sale. Makes you notice. So you see the bravado is amazing. You could put it in your cart, add to cart, right? Custom, ransomware, etc. All right, let's go on. The threat of actors now have filed SEC complaints. The SEC is the Securities and Exchange Commission. In my role on the board, we had to file F10s, F8 forms, 8Ks, 10Ks about our company. The law says you must do it. This company failed to do it. They got hit with the ransomware by AlphaV. They said, I'm not reporting it and I'm not paying you. So what did the criminals do, or the AlphaV threat actors do? They reported them to put pressure on them, right? So this is what's happening with the power. So I said this earlier. Here's another quote to the right. I don't own society a single thing. I just want to get rich and give you, and that is a bad word that I blocked out there, right? So this is what they're putting on the mostly, but not always, on the dark web. We have successfully cashed this money. We are leaving for a well-deserved retirement. I think so. As well. We have proved that. Now this is tough. We have proved that crime pays. See that? Remember the saying, crime doesn't pay? Well, we're dealing with people who prove that by doing evil deeds, retribution does not come, as well. But I'll put this up, and this gives many hope who know this is the truth. Pride comes before destruction, a haughty spirit before the fall. Let's see, though, if we can help that along. We can't just wait for it to happen. Okay, let's look at how do they use AI. Look at this. Cybercrime is a big business. An average ransom is 8.5 million. Don't think you're going to get in it, sir. I see the dollar signs in your eyes. All right, crime has doubled in the last 5 years. The average breakout time. The breakout time is when you get in. How long does it take to go what we call lateral? Get in. It used to be about 79 minutes. It looks like it's 7 now, so they're getting good at it. And of course, when you can compromise, many things, you get more damage done, and hence a higher payback from a criminal perspective. The biggest contributing factor, not the only, the biggest, is the person between the keyboard and the chair. Who's that? It literally is the person, or the person who is tapping the screen. That's the biggest contributing factor to opening up a secession, and some, like Lockheed, would say it's 7 steps, what's called the kill chain. It begin that, is that person. So you have to know how to protect yourself. Some of you already know a lot about this, but that's the issue. And if we can get more educated that against what's called social engineering, where AI is being used. So now I'm getting back to how AI is used in social engineering. Let's look at that as well. And it's used on the person as well. Now, those of you who know me, if I get an email on the subject, what subject would I likely open the email?
AI.
What is it?
AI.
Yeah, that's true. I would. AI, what else? Perhaps Elvis. What else, right? So, and most of you met me only for the first time.
Homeschooling.
Yes, homeschooling. Maybe food, if you're examining. By the way, this is all natural, no steroids. I know it's amazing, but I would click on that. Now, what are you doing? You're profiling me, right? Effectively, you hardly even know me, and look at all the information. You also know my last name, et cetera. So this is what's happening in social engineering. Watch this. Let's look at the kill chain and where AI is in this. The kill chain is simply the fancy name a while back that was applied. Here's 4 steps. Some of them I said are 5, 6, 7, but it's reconnaissance, collecting all the information. How much of information is out there that we could collect without even doing anything wrong? It's not illegal. You can't stop that, right? You can type in things and find out how old people are, what their address is, where they used to live, what their maiden name would be, etc. And then the next step would be to weaponize. Well, now that I got this information, how do I go and get an opening and get in? Then I deliver the malware, as it's called, or the goods, and then I take my action, which is stealing, encrypting, taking identity, whatever the case may be, right? And AI is used up front here in 2 ways. One is social engineering to get the person between the keyboard and the seat and the person tapping on the device, to get them to compromise without even knowing it. many times. It's also then used, if I can get the AI programs into your system or your systems in a business to find the vulnerabilities. Now I know what network I can come in. Now I know how I can download a very large amount of data without being detected. Oh, now I know you also have a cloud backup, so I can go get more data there or compromise that as well, right? So that's where AI is being used by the threat actors. We would like to use AI to fight this use of AI, as well. How do you stop it? How many know this guy? Right, by the way, where was Mayberry located in the show? Andy Griffith in North Carolina, right, as well. So nip it in the bud. We can nip more of these in the bud because what's the number one way this kill chain starts? Us, right? It really is people, right? As well. All right, this is an interesting parallel, and I just thought of it when I was working on it. There's a spiritual kill chain, isn't there, in Scripture? Think of all the Scripture you know. What is a progression that leads to death in the Scripture? Somebody will know this. Yes, ma'am, you're right. What she is doing is, it ends in death, you'll notice, right? You're quoting James, I believe, right? And James in the first chapter is desire, conceived, birth to sin, full grown, birth to death. This is kind of a kill chain. How do you stop that in your personal spiritual life, right? And again, if you're not a believer in God or the Bible, then this will be, senseless to you. But if you are, it's very important to nip it in the bud, right? That's what you teach your children, I'm sure. That's what your parents have taught you, and what you have to keep reminding yourself. I just thought that was an interesting parallel. So we have discovered the spiritual kill chain in all this. Social engineering is the psychological manipulation of people into performing compromising actions and divulging confidential information. I will give you $1 million for your password. That's called a quid pro quo social engineering, right? Click here to see this beautiful picture of me, as well. The list goes on here. To find vulnerabilities in people's businesses and devices, and also to assemble the effective attack strategy, right? The weaponizing as well. So also to find prime targets. Threat actors know who the targets are. They know where the money is. How would I know if an organization has enough money to pay a ransom? What would I do if it's a publicly traded organization? What would you do? You go to publicly available documents, because it's publicly traded, and you'd find out their revenue and their cash positions. Oh, they've got $38 million in the bank. Therefore, I'm not going to ask for a few hundred, right? It's very, very straightforward. Here are a bunch of them, and you have to know every one of them. So you ready? Does anybody know any of these on here, what they are? What's phishing? That's a very popular one. And there's versions of it. Spear phishing is focused. Whale phishing would be big opportunities, like big businesses, as well. Smishing would be through SMS or text. Vishing would be through I'm helping you here, voice, right, or sound, right? Do you ever get a voicemail? Oh, if the IRS is after you, or if you just pay this amount, call this number. So you never call a number you're given, you know that. You never call a number if your bank shows up telling you to call and giving you the number, they have likely stolen, the threat actors have stolen the logos, they've stolen information. What you do is what? You call the number you have. I think you might know that, but I just want to remind you as well. And what is honey traps? Yes, it has to do with romantic or, sexual attraction, as well. All right, there I said it in your church, I'm sorry. Business email compromises, a whole bunch of them. We don't have time to go through them, but I want to talk about deep fakes. The guy on the left is an original picture. That's all you need. The guy on the right is the deep fake that is talking and can say exactly what the threat actor would like to do because it can take a clip of a voice. Are we streaming this right now? My image and my voice is now vulnerable data, and it can be made to say anything. The good thing about it is when your spouse accuses you of something, you can argue it was a deep fake. I never said that, right? As well. But the bad news is, who's a famous celebrity that got deep faked recently? Yes, a lot of them. Actually, I just learned today that a person working in finance of a large company got on a conference call or a video call, or sometimes called, Zoom or Teams, with the CFO, the Chief Financial Officer, and he works for that person. And they had a conversation, and the CFO said, I want you to transfer $25 million to this account right away. We've got a matter that needs to be resolved. So they hung up the video conference call, and the accountant person did what? Went and made the transfer into the account that the CFO told him to do, only to discover what? The entire conference call was a deep fake. Right? So this is now video, not just images, and voice, right, as well. So that just happened, and it is gone. A lot of it is gone. An email comes in from someone you owe money to, and you transfer money to the account, only to discover it was not the account of the person billing you. It's lost. It's hard. It's really hard to track, as well. This one really gets me. Who's your favorite band? And then you type it in. This is a Facebook, for example. And what's your favorite song? And you type that in. Now, who created this and why? But it's fun, because then somebody says, oh, I love them too, and I saw them in 1978. And if somebody saw a band in 1978, what would you know about their age? See what I'm saying? You can get you can get a lot of things from it, right? And so don't do this, okay? Don't participate. Every time I see it, I try to put a comment in, this is phishing for information, because who's your favorite band is also a question where. Many times it's a security question, right? At a bank account or something like that. That's why you don't do this. So here's an example. Me, Dr. Tom, I'm scrolling on Facebook and I read the post, who's your favorite band and song? And I input right away, it's the Beach Boys and Sloop John B, because I want to play this, this game. And then the threat actor who posted that, using prompt engineering, generates a generative AI email. He says, write me an email that Dr. Tom will definitely open up and respond to. And I'll input his favorite band, I'll input where he lives, I'll input all the public information, and then the phished information that I voluntarily gave up. Boom, the email comes out and it says, email to Dr. Tom, subject, Beach Boys coming to Boca Raton, featuring your favorite song. And I found out they're really not coming. By the way, that was not right, yeah. Okay, and also I'm still waiting on that prince from Zimbabwe. I gave him the information, and I felt bad his father died. But nothing so far, nothing, as well. Okay, don't do this. Somebody posted this, it's pretty cool. Stop giving people your personal info so they can guess your passwords and security questions, right? What was your favorite job? Who did you work, favorite restaurant, favorite food, etc. Okay, you just don't do that no more. Stop training, this is the technical term. When you do that, you're training an AI machine. You're doing the training part, so then it can be used to inference something like a way to attack you. Right, so just stop doing that. That's one way. Notice the title of this slide, Some Protection Fundamentals. Here's another one. Stop signing up for everything and providing all kinds of personal information, because it might be a little bit, oh, they just want to know what my favorite color is. But then a threat actor can pull it all together. Say, I got the color here last month, I got the address here the month before, I got and the big picture of who you are and what your vulnerabilities are, as well. Use multi-factor authentication, what's that? Yeah, so one authentication is your ID, next is your password, and sometimes it's called three-factor, right? The next one is it'll text you to your cell phone, and who has your cell phone? I'm going to disappoint you in a minute, but you have it, right? And what comes? A code comes, you type that in, boom, you're there. That's called the third. Okay, so a threat actor can get your ID and password, but what can't they get? You have to have it in your hand, right? Yes, they can. Now watch this. Watch this. Okay, I know you get, how many, do you have 2 more hours? How much time do you have? Watch what happens. They can get your cell phone carrier's ID and password, but they can't get into that account. Why? Because you have used multi-factor authentication. They don't have your cell phone. But they also got some security questions. And they know it's Verizon. So they call. And they say, this is, right? This is Sue Pooch-Farron. I'm calling because I lost my cell phone. And they said, oh, really? I said, yeah, could you please assign the SMS, the SIM to my new phone? Now watch, right? And they say, well, okay, we can help you with that. What is your password? What is your security question? Bam, bam, bam. And now what is the information on your new phone? And you give it, and then what happens? Your existing phone stops working, and the one that the threat actor has now can get the third, the multi-variable, right, authentication, because that person now has virtually the copy of your phone, as well. That is called SIM swapping, in case you want to know the term here, as well. So it's not foolproof, is my point. And I'm not saying this to scare you, and it's pretty darn good, and you should do it on everything. Have this multi-factor, authentication. But that could happen, so you got to protect everything else to keep it from happening. Let's move on. Okay, don't leave your computers unattended or your screens open. Don't click on ever click on a link in an email, right? Ever, okay. Historically, the misuse of technology that is evil, right? It's been a misuse. That's been the evil part, right? The internet, not evil inherently, but the misuse of it as well. However, a distinctive with AI, watch this, is that this technology can self-actuate evil and harm. That's why it's different than anything else we've seen, because it can self-actuate. I'm not saying it knows consciously as a moral issue, but it's possible, that it can as well. When we have an accident in an intersection and it's bad, maybe somebody is severely hurt or even there's a death, what can we do to prevent that? We can put up stoplights, and we can put up stop signs, and we can control with speed bumps, we can address it. If we have a nuclear power plant that leaks, what can we do? We can address it. If we have an incident of AI, it might be impossible to recover. That interesting? Because every recovery mechanism is controlled, by it, as well. That's why it's so serious. And that concept has been espoused by Elon Musk, who invested earlier, in AI, that it may be unrecoverable. That's why we have to take it seriously, okay? So the existential challenge in addressing the threat of AI, what does existential mean? Existential, what does it mean? That's right, threatening, are you a student? Yeah. Yeah, you got left back a lot, I guess. Yeah, it is threatening the existence. So that's the threat. Let's analyze this threat, as well. Okay, we're going to do what's that called? No, who put that together? Renee? I thought this was the gifted. Descartes, Cartesian coordinates. A brilliant French philosopher, mathematician. So we got one here. We got an XY plane, as it would say. And we're going to categorize the threats. There are issues of omission and commission. You understand that on the y-axis. There are issues of accidents, and you can do an accident by omission, meaning I accidentally didn't pay attention. Or you can do an accident by, pushing a wrong button, and you meant to hit that one. But you can also do a purposeful threat, either by a purposeful threat would be looking the other way when you know you could have stopped it, or obviously a very intentional one. So that's the way you can categorize these. And each one of them has to be looked at. So if we study the vulnerability here, we can understand how to address it in three ways. With AI ethics policy and regulation, these are not foolproof, but they're better than nothing, right? Would you agree that the law against murder and rape has caused a reduction, if you will, or prevents it, right? I think you would, right? It isn't perfect, but it's better than nothing, so stay with that. Compliance, how do you know you're complying? We should be promoting and giving certificates and awards to people who, organizations that comply. And I've personally been working on this one in enforcement. What happens when you don't comply? Okay, you go through the audit, say, man, your AI is all over the place, you're not complying, and they say what? So what? So sue me. Okay, so you need some enforcement. And I'm going to now get philosophical with you, and I want you to know this, okay? AI ethics enforcement, or any type of law enforcement, is required to have a civil society. Now watch. Immanuel Kant, who's he? Was he? Yes, philosopher in the 1800s. And he was popular for doing what would be called a transcendental analysis. And so as he studied the existence of God, he didn't want to argue the existence of God so much as transcending it as, what if there were no God? And what if there were a God, right? As opposed to taking a definitive position. And he argued this very interesting point. So I'm giving him credit. He was in the 1800s. And he said, for enforcement to be successful, there must be a third-party agency. And right away, you might be thinking of the police or the government, right? And indeed, it must have these characteristics. This is fascinating. That agency must be knowledgeable to know what the facts are. That agency must be just. It must be incorruptible, and it also must be authoritative, that it can hand out awards and punishment. Who was that agency in earlier times? That's right, that was God at one time. And what has modern man done? Sought to eliminate this agency, and therefore there's a void, and it's replaced with what? It is replaced with people. The problem with that is what? Are people bribable and corruptible? Are they all-knowing, right? Are they necessarily authoritative? Because a lot of people don't pay attention to other people, right? As well. So here's the point. Although man has and it continues to eliminate God, the agency is approximated with people. And that approximation, even though it fails, right, is what is needed. So you can participate in it. This is called Immanuel Kant's moral argument. A call to action of God's people is to participate in being that agency. Why turn it over to those who do not have the moral convictions and the ethical convictions, right? So this is my call to action to believers. It's not about whether you like AI or not. It's not about whether you're scared of it or not. It's about engaging in society. So just like laws against child abuse, just like laws against drinking and driving, we should have the abuse of AI under some level of legal authority as well. And here's a bunch of, if you get a hold of these slides, here's a bunch of organizations you could participate in. A lot is going on to establish ethics and the enforcement thereof. And you can say, well, what can I do? You could do that. You could participate, especially if you have legal expertise to participate in as well. Okay. There's a growing elitist belief that emerging AI science can rule and manage society better than people. What would you say about that? Well, have you looked at people running our society? Do you think there's any credence in that statement? That anything is better than the people running society? Right, so that's why it has a little bit of strength to this particular point. But there's a biblical perspective that counters this. What is that biblical perspective? Here we are. How can you use the Bible to counter this idea that we should turn it over to AI? Not your opinion, but what? Think about Genesis. Giving you a hint. Yeah, go ahead, sir.
Well, in abundance of counsel, there's wisdom, so you get the competing and multifaceted inputs of all kinds of people.
That's a great point. The abundance of counsel, which is a proverb in Proverbs, is a very powerful statement as well. Go back, though, to early. What did God say to mankind? Okay, the key word is have. Okay, that's right. Here it is, and I'm quoting Genesis in the Bible. And God said, let us make man in our image, our likeness, and let them, man, have dominion over all the earth. That includes AI, because AI is on the earth, right? Is in the earth as well. So that refutes this idea that we should let technology of any kind have dominion. Number one, all things are lawful for me, but not all are helpful. This is St. Paul, saying all things are lawful for me, but I will not be brought under the power of any. So you can build a biblical case to continue to have human beings, right, do this. All right, we just went out. I am going to call on my AV because I'm wrapping up here. If you stay with me, we're around in third in a biblical metaphor. Please let me finish in just a moment as Allie here helps, and I'm going to take any questions, though, up to this point. Go ahead, any questions or comments? Yes, ma'am.
Probably something everyone knows, but I don't. If your phone is completely powered off, how is it still taking it down?
The question is, if your cell phone is completely powered off, I mean you turn it off, how could it be active in any way and take data, record, or do something? Is it up to me now? Okay. I am going to answer that question. I just want to get this thing started while she is here. All right. Does anyone know my password? While I was talking, you found it, right? Okay. One time I was having my phone updated, and I had the I was having my phone updated, and a while back, and okay, powered down. I was on another phone, right, working on my cell phone, and then okay, a couple things happened, and then I said, "Should I power it up now?" And the gentleman on the phone said, "No, I will do it." And ever since then, I thought, okay, this is not hard. To answer your question, how technically, it's not hard. If there's enough residual, it can be woken up by you pressing a switch, but also receiving a signal, right? It can be powered on, receiving. So it's not a technical mystery, by any means, because the signals coming into the phone are always there, and there's a receiver chip, a network interface chip, right, that can receive the signal, and it can take a command effectively, which is to do the same thing as if you hit a switch or you tapped, to put it on. You all feeling good about all this tonight? When you come to this church, right, Pastor Austin, you're always encouraged. Okay, I'm going to do this manually, as well. We're gonna wrap up here. Okay, so AI will likely attain singularity. What's that? Hey, and now if you're at a cocktail party or if you're at a dinner and somebody, hey, do you think AI will attain singularity? How would you answer that today without knowing this? And the answer is singularity is achieving an intelligence that surpasses humans but becomes uncontrollable and irreversible, resulting in unforeseen consequences for human civilization. Then you want to change the subject, right, and something more happy. But it likely will. I use the word likely, right? It may not. I mean, we don't know, right? So it likely will. But even if it does, I'm getting a worst case, scenario here. You should be encouraged with some basics. Although AI may become more intelligent than humans, AI will always lack the reality and the priority of a spiritual dimension, right? No matter what. You will have it if you have that. If you are regenerated, as Jesus says, born again in the book of John, then you have that, and you will always have that, advantage. God will empower you and his people to execute the dominion over the earth because it's commanded. So we'll be able to do it. And you might say, well, it looks futile. You covered all these bad things happening. No, we will. AI will always continually be training and learning. And when I learned that, it reminded me of the verse in Timothy. Always learning and never able to come to the knowledge of truth. Well, what truth? Right? The truth that you would have solely, and you should take comfort in it, being one of God's people. Right? The machine will never get it. It will probably beat you, and maybe already has, in other types of knowledge, right? As well, but not that. It just won't happen, right? AI is yet another man-made creation that many will worship, not all, and they will substitute for God, right? And the Romans predicts this, right? Changing the exchange, the great exchange happens, because deep down when you suppress something, psychologically, you always exchange it for something, because you can't have a neutral in your psyche. It has to be something, right? So the exchanging of the glory of our incorruptible God, as you can read, right, for the image and the likeness of corruptible man, or what man has made. God is bigger than AI and will continue to be sovereign over all the people, nations, because in Jesus Christ is hidden all the treasures of wisdom and knowledge. Would you like to get smarter? Then get close to who? Yeah, the Lord Jesus Christ and God. Because everything, every invention that I personally have ever done, that other people have done, every creative thing, he already knows about. The Lord Jesus Christ and God knows how to stop threat actors and crime, and maybe he'll use us. It's up to him because he's sovereign over everything. And you may know a lot of these verses. I won't read them all, but you can fear not, you can have peace, because God has overcome the world, and AI is in the world, and it's overcomable by what Jesus has done. So don't be afraid, don't be discouraged, because no weapon fashioned against you shall prosper. It's a powerful verse in Isaiah. Okay, we're closing up here. What's the call to action? How can you use AI to point people to the Bible and to the Lord? How can you use AI to demonstrate God's love by helping others in ministry, right, as well? Christians and other thinkers, moral thinkers, right, have to be engaged in AI. Every measure has a countermeasure. When the arrow was invented, what followed it? The spear. What followed that? The shield, right, to protect, right? So think of the countermeasures. Be the sheepdog. Get involved, like I said earlier, as well. Remember, you're in the world, not of the world. Notice what Jesus says. He's not praying that we get taken out of the world, which I believe is synonymous with sticking our head in the sand, using the ostrich, metaphor. But we're told to have dominion and to affect it, for him, of course. And he prays that we'll be protected from the evil one, as well. Final encouragement here, okay? I'm going to give you a final encouragement, but there are people who are trying to fight this in my company, all around the world, as well in government, many activities, right? And it reminds me of, in Isaiah, the Lord said, whom shall we send? Right? Remember that? Who shall we send to? And I'm going to make a metaphor here. Who will protect the elderly from these threat actors? Who will protect our children? Who shall we send? Who will go for us? What follows that? Here am I, send me. Right? So step up to that. Here am I, send me. I will protect the vulnerable. I will protect good. And God is calling, I believe, us Christians. This message is for believers, for Christians, right? Not everyone. Although I wish you'd get involved if you have a moral, disposition on this as well. And here's what's happening. Read this. In one sense, God has shaken the earth, as in Hebrews. You may not have seen this before. The emergence of AI is a shaking. When we went through COVID, it was a shaking. When we went through wars and other pestilence, a shaking, right? That's happening. And what happens when the shaking takes place? The things that are not of the Lord and things that are not permanent disappear. They're shaken out. And the shaking of the reeds, right, to separate the wheat and the chaff is another metaphor here. So we're going through a shaking here. Churches who were committed to a biblical worldview and committed to the Lord thrived during COVID. Others fell out, right, as well. Not all of them did. You may know that some didn't, but in general, they did. Contributions to charities went up as well. So when the Lord starts allowing the shaking or doing it directly, we don't know. But when he's allowing it through his permissive will to allow that to happen, in order that the things of God's kingdom that cannot be shaken may remain as well. Therefore, let us be grateful for receiving a kingdom that cannot be shaken. This is an encouragement for us, because I said a lot of things that could be scary. But I'm encouraged. I would like to say, here am I, send me, and move forward to protect, again, the vulnerable, and particularly our children, from not only this, but whatever technological evils may be emerging in our society. Do I have a few more minutes for questions, or would you like me to wrap up? Yes, as well. And I would like to close with Elvis's "I Did It My Way." And now...
Can I make one announcement? Before we take questions, can we thank Dr. Tom for being here tonight? We also want to ask if you would consider supporting the church on our mission to put the roof on. If you were blessed tonight, we would ask that you would pass that blessing on to the church. And also, the Home Education Foundation, which is our organization that we all support, we have someone tonight who said they will match up to $1,000 that come in tonight. So I talked to our accounting people at the Home Education Foundation, and any donation that comes in tonight till midnight will be probably doubled because it's going to be matched. So if you've been waiting to give your offering to HEF, tonight's the night. Make that donation. I'm going to talk to them first thing in the morning. I'll find out what we collected, and we'll double it up. So most of you know, Al, you switch to the next slide. Most of you know Brenda Dickinson, who's working for almost 30 years, I think, writing our homeschool law and fighting for the scholarships that now put $8,000 in every student's bank account for us to homeschool next year. It's been an incredible opportunity for us. So we want to, the matches for HEF, right there. So if you click on there, I'm sorry, Liz. There's the brochures are on the table out there. Stop by the resource table if you want any information on any of the announcements we made. Thank you for coming, and we'll stay for some questions.
Comprehensive of all human knowledge. You can ask me any question. Not just this topic, yes. Anything? Yes, sir, go ahead.
I recently fell for one at work. Somehow they managed to recreate my work's Microsoft login phone thing. So I put in my work's email and password that I use for my computer. And it asked for that third-party verification, which came through a text on my phone. I don't know how that works. But the interesting thing is the code came in and disappeared as a text, and I never saw the text in my received text. It just it came as a notification, but completely deleted, disappeared, which was my first big warning sign. But the code worked, and then I don't know what happened after that, but I reported it to our tech department.
Always do that. Always report.
Yeah. And they changed my password right away, but I don't know how vulnerable my phone is now because it happened through my phone, not through my work computer.
Yeah, it could have been compromised, but I would not be the best to advise you on that. But I would say find someone at your work who is really good with devices. And I've had that happen too with a compromised system, and he said, never turn it on, don't connect it to the network. So that's an experience I had once. Maybe that's true with yours. So please get with them and say, you know, tell them exactly what you said there. And you sure it was a text?
Well, it was a text. You know how you get text notifications on top? That's how it came in. It had the verification code. But then when you
But are you sure it was a text? You see where I'm getting at? Yeah. It looked like a text. Yeah. Yeah, that's why it's tricky. Your screen could have been compromised, and it looks like a text, right?
yeah,
I don't know, but
they're getting smart.
okay. Oh yeah. Yes, ma'am.
So, would you say that in total, would you support the total ban or severe regulation of AI to the public, or would you still consider it to be something useful to the general public in the use that it is today, like the aperture?
Yeah, the question is how, in my personal opinion, I think you're asking for on regulation and restrictions, laws, you know, as well. Right now, I think we need more because there's a lot of unknown. That's my opinion. We do know a lot about other crimes like robbery, rape, murder. You know, we know a lot about them, so we can customize. The unknown is an issue, so I think we need to do something that could be a little more severe, but we could back off if we determine, you know, that it isn't as bad as we thought. Every time you have something unknown, and this is why businesses are banning it, and they can, because of the unknownness, not necessarily. I listed 6 risks or 7 on generative AI, but we haven't quantified them, you know, on how you know, how bad it is. So I would say yes, it should be, my opinion is we should be working on it, and maybe we can intercept with legislation and policy when the technology reveals itself more. But if we wait for that, then there's a long lead time. Does that make sense? You know, to get a jump on, because it takes forever, you know, to get these things done. Yes, sir. Pat.
In this information collection, because you see there, is there one bank that holds that puts all your little pieces together, or is it many companies and somebody knows how to bring those companies there to get it all?
Yeah, in a nefarious act by a threat actor.
How do they get all the pieces? They go to all these other companies again?
Oh yeah, yeah. They, Yeah, if you look at the kill chain, the first process is to be able to mine what's publicly available and legal to mine, right, as well. And then be able to see that, okay, you lived on 22nd Street, and this is inferential data. 87% of people in that neighborhood have a bank account at First, Republic, or attend this church. So if I could get into their databases, I can get more information on you, as well. Sometimes it takes tens and hundreds of days to know that there is malware in a system collecting data. And so when it happens, we go in and look, and we say, this has been here for 186 days. Isn't that interesting? It doesn't just happen, because there's that notion of weaponizing and then delivery and making sure that when you do expose it, you got the criminals and the threat actors have a strong position, right, by looking around and where they could get it, as well. But it's easy to collect a lot of data, based, especially young people who are very free with what they would put on, on a social media, or everything is done, by an app as well. And then you get a letter one day, oh, your app has been, your data has been compromised. You ever get a letter like that as well? Because that's a legal requirement, is to inform, the consumers about a particular, event that takes place. Pastor Austin, it is not very hard. It's a little harder once you get the data and you get in to know how to then take that next step, right? Called delivery, and then actioning your objectives on whatever you want to do. But that earlier part is really, we have to be careful. Teach everybody you know and your children about that.
It used to be easy. If some guy from another country says, hey, I got $1 million. If you'll just send me 500, I'll send you. You can figure it out if you had. Now, you don't even know what's happening.
Yeah, that's a quid pro quo. But some people do, fall for that, as well. Yes, sir. And then.
Yeah, I've got a kind of a different experience, and I'm just wondering if it's really a thing or if I'm just paranoid. I hate Google, and so I'm biased. I'll say that up front. But it seems like some of these, very left-leaning companies are almost using this "Are you a real person?" tests.
CAPTCHA.
To keep you out, or so like I'm answering the correct answer, and it's still not letting me in. Is that a thing? Have you heard anything about that?
I haven't, to answer your question directly, but it's very easy to do. It's very possible, right, as well. And because by the time you get to the CAPTCHA, as it's called, and you're clicking on stairs or motorcycles or whatever, by the time you get there, they know who they think, they're pretty sure who you are. They just want to make sure it's not someone impersonating you, a robot or whatever. That's why it says I'm not a robot. But a robot can actually click that, who is a robot, as well. So I have not heard of a confirmed instance of that happening where it's used as a filter to keep people out. Let me just be honest and think it's highly more likely an operator error, as well. And once you keep going, if you keep doing it, it thinks you are not human, and then it will, if you made a mistake 5 times in a row, whatever it might be.
And then try to get a hold of them to turn things around. You have to wait a week.
Yeah, it's pretty bad, as well. I used to say I don't have to prove anything to anybody until I had to do that. They said, we shall see if you don't have to prove.
Hi.
Hi, Sabrina.
So my degree is in cyber policy. I love policy. And I'm just wondering with AI, because it's already so hard to pass policies in a way that's timely with technology, do you see any either pressing issues or either solutions that if you could, with a snap of a, snap, make something change, what would you do so that policy and education helps with AI?
Wow, if I were a king kind of question, as well. But first of all, anything like that is difficult in a free society. And I'm going to define free society as one that you can own land and there's a capitalist economy. I'm just making that as a definition. We are in one in the United States, as well as others. You can correlate that advantage of a free society to the standard of living. It's definitely correlated, right? In other words, those countries that are not have a much lower standard of living per capita, as well. So therefore, I say that because that's what's hard to give up, is that the benefits of that freedom and the what might be an antinomial position, meaning against laws. You know, leave me alone, I can do it. That's an American phenomenon, as you well know, but in other parts of the world. And therefore, that is extremely difficult to get through, because now you're telling me I'm restricted of using technology that I don't even know if it is that bad. I mean, this was an interesting discussion, but how prevalent? Now, to answer your question more directly, I think it will be the prevalence of crime, just like anything else. The more there's looting, the more there's curfews. The list goes on with that, right? So it's going to be the prevalence of it. And if I could answer my question, I don't know how to accelerate the prevalence of crime legally or ethically, but that will do it, you know, if you know what I'm saying. And I think we have to wait for that. I don't think in this society, you will see other countries, they'll be able to move faster with restrictions, but they'll also not be able to use it for good, right? Which is the type 1 and type 2 error. How much bad are you willing to allow in order to save the life of someone because of the AI that was able to diagnose or come up with it?
A part of me wonders if there's ever going to be. Oh, sorry. A part of me wonders if companies might even go back one day to saying, "Hey, we're doing pen and paper because there's risk with technology, and we just don't want to deal with this."
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it could be great question. You could be a sheepdog with your background, for sure. You know, but think about it. People with moral convictions of what's right and seek to have man continue dominion over the earth, why aren't they doing the policy work and the law work? Right? That's the age-old debate. Hi, yes, please.
Hi. I was just wondering if you can say anything from a biblical perspective to using generative AI. I've read a lot in the news about various authors or illustrators or artists saying, oh, they stole my work and they're now using it for prompts. So how would you address that, or what would your recommendations be?
Well, using any type of creative work, let's limit it to art or a poem like that, without permission, because in America, things in text are pretty much automatically copyrighted, and they belong to the person who originated it, right? So they're existing. My point in that is there are existing laws that can use that. If people are violating that, then yes, they're doing something wrong. They're violating it. There should be consequences to it as well. Did you hear me say that the federal court did rule that, right? You can't enjoy the benefits of a copyright if it's output by AI. Right? And once the output comes, it could be mostly your stuff that you inputted, but still you can't get the copyright because a non-human actually contributed right to the art, as well. So I think we have really good laws on that, and that one coming up is interesting as well to take note of. At the end of the day, though, how do you enforce that, and how can you tell? I know lots of stories where people are looking at the output and say, hey, that's mine. Because, in fact, we were talking about that today, weren't we? About how your style of code can be recognized. So if somebody's using it and they didn't get it from you or steal it from you directly, but it somehow came through, it can be found. And Sue mentioned there's these tools, right, that can determine what's out there. It's a big search, and compare to determine what's out there and what's AI generated. Did that help answer the question, or did I miss it? Yes, and Dr. John. Oh, no, you're not, no. No, it would not look at you. Constantly, it's always on.
Nefarious.
Yeah.
Well.
How do you think it knows, hey Siri, to wake up? So it's constant, everything you're saying, and I'm waiting for that to be used in a court of law. Now I don't know how it's saved. I don't know how long it's saved, but it's definitely always listening. So.
I've heard that Apple's like the greatest source of health information on the world's population via smartwatches that now have EKGs, and for a long time, pulsometers and blood pressure things, that they have so much data on what's happening with people. Anyway, are those corporations selling that data in the future? Are they?
Well, that's still under a lot of legal debate now, who owns the data. Like when you're driving your car, your car company knows how fast you're going if you text when you're driving, if you ran a stop sign, if your seatbelt's on. Now, do you own that data, or does your car company own the data, and can they sell it to your insurance company to affect your premium? Is debatable right now as well. So that it's an ambiguous answer, because it's all going, who owns that particular data? By the way, real quick, a casino was hacked and broken into by the thermometer in the aquarium in the library, in the lobby, because it was a smart thermometer. So it had a connection to the internet or the Wi-Fi, because it was, controllable, and it was sending data. And the threat actors understood that, and they were able to use that instead of coming through your laptop or coming through your phone. They came through that thermometer. So when you have a smartphone, a smart TV, it's vulnerable. Whatever's smart and connected, to the internet.
Fish start winning at blackjack?
Yes. I'm the comedian here, okay? So tone down the jokes.
Hi, Tom. I enjoyed this talk a good bit. I want to ask a little bit of a practical question.
Yes.
I have a VPN. If somebody is a proficient hacker, does a VPN help at all?
Oh, it does help, but you said proficient. Are they proficient enough to get around it? Yes, some are. Yeah, it's a simple answer, but
Okay.
it does help, especially, you want to eliminate as many as possible. So all these amateurs trying to experiment with it that don't have that skill, sure, let's keep them out, as well.
How reliable is the thermostat that's connected to your network? We have our internet supplier with the, the Wi-Fi. We get notifications on our phone saying, whenever there's a new thing connected to our Wi-Fi, it says there were no vulnerabilities during our check. Like, how reliable is that check by the internet supplier?
Well, you're asking me to comment on the quality of particular, cybersecurity software. And so since I don't know it, there is some very reliable software out there. I don't know if you have it personally, but as well. And you could research that and make sure it's, it's upgraded. As well. Down level software is vulnerable because the threat actors have figured out their vulnerabilities, right? And then the patch comes, and you get on that when the patch comes, as well. So always updating is another thing I put on the list. Always keep your software updated. It's easy to say, do you want to update? And you say no, because you don't want it to mess around with your PC, right? And we've all been there. Later, like the way about taking out the garbage, always later, and then it builds up. Do it. Anything else?
Are
yes.
you?
We'll do this one first.
Is there any companies putting together sort of something like you are to show our politicians what's going on with IA, because they know they're involved in it, and from their track record, they're not too smart on anything?
Okay, the question was, are our politicians aware of, and the answer is yes, there's awareness, in my opinion. There have been smarter people on this topic testifying before Congress.
Getting to the Capitol.
Now, were they acting on it and doing things? That was a little bit related to, I think, the question over here, right? When is the action going to happen? When should it happen as well? But I don't think there's an awareness problem in general. And the way, as you know, politicians work is not everyone is an expert on everything, so they have the committees that are associated with technology that are quite aware. And I think, I know, the FBI is in the news. It's not private knowledge of all the things that they're doing and what they're involved in. That was a long answer to, I think they're aware, but if you're asking me if I'm satisfied with the action of any politician, was that the question? Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, we're just going to take one or two more.
So as a homeschool parent, we have our kids, they do coding and bots and different things like that, but for the kids that are interested in AI and cybersecurity, they want to out-hack the hackers. Are you aware of any programs for them or internships for them?
Cool. Yeah, ethical hacking, as it's sometimes called, or white hat hacking. More people should get involved to build an army that is for good, as well. And Then the question is, do I know any of the programs? Does anyone here know any of the programs? Somebody does here. Please tell us.
Well, if you're probably doing cybersecurity, it's better to look into HTML and JavaScript, which are usually the most popular web design languages. But if you're looking into doing machine learning, it's better to look into Python, or probably one of the more elementary languages like C, C++, or C#. Well, C# is more software.
Let
but
me,
yeah.
We're working with the Home
well,
Education
before-
Foundation.
yeah,
Go ahead, Tom.
Just before, one of the weaknesses of the human language is we have, 2 words that are spelled and pronounced the same way that means different things. I think you meant like training programs, am I right? And you answered programming languages, am I right? Yeah, so, yeah, I just wanted to make sure it's clear here in my role as a guy up on stage. You would like to know, are there training programs for internships, as opposed to your great answer was great. That's the programming languages, and that's the right answer for the wrong reason. Thanks to Aristotle, we understand that, the 4 reasons for things.
We are
You were
working
gonna answer that
with
question.
the Home Education Foundation has a not-for-profit arm. It's being tweaked right now. It's a Home Education Connect, and it's going to be connecting our home education students with certifications and training in fields that maybe don't require a 4-year college degree, but the students can get trained in them and get to work. And cybersecurity and all of that falls into that area. So stay tuned, because they're working really hard on it. So support their work, because they're working really hard to bring these connections to connect industry to our students.
So that's the training
And they
intern
want-
answer.
So I don't know if I would say this is cybersecurity training, but I have heard about Boca Code in the area, and that they train people up in getting certifications. Even if you're a veteran coming back and you can't get a job, like they'll work with people in different situations to get them a certification. But I did also want to bring up that in regards to cybersecurity, it's not all coding. Like I do cybersecurity, but I do marketing, I do education, I do
That's a good point.
content, and at the end of the day, the biggest risk to cyber is user error. So if we can educate people, if we can go to nursing homes and tell the elderly about, hey, don't click that text, we are creating a real impact and we are helping people. So just keep in mind, like, cyber's not just coding, because a lot of that now is being introduced with technology too, and new softwares and capabilities, so.
Well, let me just underscore, non-technology, non-software coding dimensions of cybersecurity are plentiful, as well. And education, like you just said, is part of that, so cool. Yes, sir.
I just have a quick comment for the gentleman that asked about training. There's a website called Hack the Box that is free, and it's actually like a sandbox where you can train with real virtual machines and learn how to hack into systems. So
Thanks, Lon. Yeah.
Okay.
See, you get more when you come to a HEED event that you bargain for.
Well, we've been doing these winter conferences for 20 years. We've
Great.
covered relationships, connecting with our kids, parenting, marriages, pornography, you name it, to equip parents to really be able to go out and make a difference with their kids and with their families and for this generation. So we are happy to add cybersecurity and AI and all of the things that you've shared with us tonight. It's a blessing, and I know God's going to reward you. And if you want Tom to come speak at an organization, or you've got, gosh, I wish so-and-so was here, we want to help promote getting the word out. So
Here am I.
we will get those messages to him. Send us all your feedback. We'll give him the good ones, and we'll stick the other ones. And
I do that all the time at the university. Yeah.
thank you, Pastor Austin, for again opening your home. Liz, Jean, do I have anything else?
Okay, after party. Where's the after party?
Ale House.
It's going to be
They
like
have
the
chocolate,
Great Gatsby.
chocolate something or other you asked for.
Okay, thank you.
So, all right, thanks so much.
Thank you, Alex.